Hello and welcome to another episode from the Derry na Fleadh Trail video series. Some people had voiced some interest in how I map the more complex buildings like churches in 3D, so I thought I'm going to make a video about that. You might have seen the one about the Magorban Church and also Killinall Church. So there wasn't a church available left over from the trail that I could do like that with little turrets and stuff on it, and I'll show you a picture here. And it's actually a lovely, lovely site. It's southwest of Ballingarry, and it's a very old monastic site. It's like 6th, 7th century, and you can kind of, when you get there, you get this kind of vibe of there is something ancient going on here. The church is not that old. It's was built in 1846 on the foundations, or maybe using some of the stones of the old church. There's also a maybe dried up holy well around here, and this tree here is much bigger in real life and really gives it a magic feeling. In winter it's probably not as nice as in summer, but still the first snowdrops were out and all that, blah blah blah. So we'll get into the mapping. If you want to do 3D mapping with more complex buildings, you have to follow a certain pattern. If you don't use just building levels and roof shape, if the building contains several building parts, what you have to bear in mind is that you have to use a relation. And I used to do it wrong for a long time, but I think I got the hang of it now, and that's also why I'm sharing how to do it properly. So you need building parts. It's a bit like Lego or something, and then you need the relation that you put all the building parts in, like a zip file or something like that. So this is what it looks like in F4 map, and this is what it looks like in OSM2 World Viewer. When I do these kinds of 3D mappings, I do it in JOSM because it's a bit easier to square off building parts and so on. But because I haven't done any JOSM editing, I'll have to stick to the ID editor. So it's just a flat building. Now I have added some details to this little shed here, which seems to have been like a stables or something when people came in with their horses. But the main church, you see here, I have a door here. And there is a door there, but there's no, the different building heights, the roof heights aren't mapped or anything. So that's what we're going to do. So this is what it looks like in 2D, obviously, and there are some tags already on the church. And if I click here on map data, you'll see there are quite a few. The reference for the National Monument Service and the religion and the service times. So I put a lot of detail in there. The service times were on this sign here, the entrance. And I have Wikidata here, and the start date and so on. So I'll go in. And when you do complex mapping with different building heights is you have to draw like a bounding box around it, so to speak. And you can just use, if the church is already mapped, you can just use the one that's already there. But you might end up adding more details, and then you might have to extend it. So what I would recommend doing first is that you get all the tags that you have, what we call the 2D tags, that have no building height or anything or roof shape. You get those and you click on this little symbol here that puts it changes it into a text box, and you just copy and paste them all into an editor, just to have them safe, because we might have to draw the whole thing again, and it's neat to have them all here and then be able to paste them back. So when we look at the church, I said that we need a relation, and maybe it's a good point to do that first. So I just highlight this because I'm going to add this to the relation later on. But I need to have something highlighted to add to the relation, and I create the new relation, and you choose from the list, you just choose relation, and the type is building. That's very important. If you do it in JOSM and you try to save it when you're finished, it'll say that you need a building type. It doesn't ask for that in the idea editor, so I'm not going to do it. And this now, you see that it's flashing in yellow there, or yeah. This is the outline of the church, and I said earlier I might delete it later on and replace it with the more detailed one, but this is what you do. The role is outline, and you can give a name to the relation to make it easier to find it in a list of other relations nearby, which probably won't be a problem because it's very rural. Croghan Church. So then what I'm going to do is I'll start with the middle, the nave, and I'll use the area tool and just go around here, and I take all the nodes, hit them all, otherwise there will be a problem later on. And you can already see that it's not square here. But I'll finish the nave off by just hitting the escape key. I'll define it as a building part first. So you can either click on building and then go into the tags and add colon part, or you go to area and replace area yes with building part yes, and then I should be able to square it off. And that's our first building part, and of course we have to add it to the relation. And you can see here now that in the drop-down menu it says relation Croghan Church, and that's the one we want. And the role here is part. So there's only two roles, part and outline. And we can add some 3D tags to this one now. When I was there, I couldn't measure the height, and I don't have any fancy surveying tools. So what I did is just I took a stick that was 1 meter long, I took it with me, put it next to the church, took a picture, and then when I was at home, I just multiplied the stick. So it's about 10 meters high. So height 10. And then the roof of the church is gabled. All the roofs are gabled on this one. Roof shape gabled. And the roof material is slate, as you could hopefully see in the image. I'll put the height of the roof at 4.5 because it looks roughly a little bit less than half of the height of the church. So roof height 4.5, and that automatically leaves 5.5 meters for the main body of the church, I hope. This is one of the things where I like to use JOSM. There was a plugin for it, Kenzie 3D, which doesn't work for me anymore. But you can also save what you've done as an OSM file, and that's what you need for the OSM2 World viewer. You can import that and you can check what you've done before you upload all your data into OpenStreetMap, so you kind of can use that as a tool. So this is the first part, and the second part I'm going to add is this one here. And again, area, change that to building part, yes. And the roof shape is also gabled. But what's very important to know here, is that if you put in gabled, or it's the same with hipped, it will always presume that the ridge of the roof goes parallel to the longest, or the longer side of the rectangle. So in this case, it's this way, and it would, which is fine because it's the case here. But with this part here, it would presume that the ridge goes that way, which it doesn't. It continues in this direction, east-west. So you can fix that by adding roof orientation across. And that doesn't change anything there on the screen, but it will render it correctly. And then we have the roof material slate. And I've estimated the height of this building part at 7 meters. And the roof is a little more than a third, I would think. So roof height like a third would be 2.3. So let's put it at 2.5. And that's okay. And I have to add this to the relation part. And the next bit I want to add is over here. I'll go this way. And again, building part, yes, roof material, slate, roof shape, gabled, and again we have to add the roof orientation across. And the estimated height here is 8.5 meters of the whole thing. And the roof looks to be the same height as for the main part, for the nave. So which was, how much was it? 4.5. So to make them look the same height, I have to take, we want to make the bottom parts look the same height, I think. That's what we're trying to do, because the roofs look flush, those two roof parts. So I use the total height of this part is 10 minus the roof height is 4.5, which is 5.5. So I want to make this bottom part also 5.5. So to get that, I have to make the roof 3.5. Roof height 3.5. Hopefully that'll work. And not to forget to add this to the relation. And now this is a bit crooked here. So I'll highlight them all and hit my Q key to make it square. And then I have this part here. Building part. Yes, and the usual tags for the roof. The roof shape is not gabled, it's called skillion. That's when it just slopes down on one side, and I might have to add the direction, which is a bit, well, it's actually, so it goes down that way, which is roughly 0 degrees on a, if you imagine you have a clock, 12 o'clock is 0 degrees or 360. 3 o'clock is 90 degrees. 6 o'clock is 180. And 9 o'clock is 270. So we'll go here, which is nicely almost straight. It might be 355 or something. We'll just chance it. So roof direction 0. You only need that for skillion roofs, really. And then we have roof shape, roof material, slate. And we have the height. So it just ends underneath where the roof of this one ends. So it's the total height of this part is just below the height of the body of this part, which is 5. So let's put this at 4.8. Oh, height 4.8. And then the roof shape, roof height. About 2/5. Jesus, it's getting more complicated than I thought. So that is gonna cheat. 4.8 by 5 times 2. So let's say 2 meters. Yes, and we have a door here. Never mind that. And we'll add this to the relation part. There's a stained glass window here, which we could add, and it's in the center of the wall. So what I'd like to do is I highlight this because then it shows the little arrow here, which is the center of that line. and I can just double click on it and I get the center. And I'll add a window, yes. And there might be some famous stained glass window artist who was responsible for it. It was definitely stained glass, it wasn't just colorful glass, but as I couldn't get inside, I couldn't take a picture. So I'll just leave it there. That should be all our parts. What we now have to do... Oh, it's not all our parts, because we have these funny little buttresses, which I do want to add. So I'll just start with... They're at these... Let me see. Yeah, so it has these 4 buttresses at each corner of the main building. No, wait. One there, one there. One there. One there, one there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Jesus. And I will, I'll just do one and then hopefully copy and paste will be possible. So I'll start at this corner. It would be so nice in JOSM, because this is never gonna be square. Building part. Roughly like that. And then I can delete this corner here, so we don't have an overlap. But if you remember that we had the outline now doesn't, well, this is not the outline, but anyway, it doesn't include this little part, so we have to modify the outline in the end. So I'm just going to use this one here, building part, yes. Material, actually, I didn't add that to the other ones, limestone, I think. And I'm going to simplify them, because you have to draw the line somewhere, no pun intended. So I'm just going to make this like a square pillar with a skillion roof, if you get me, because that's roughly what they look like. They're kind of stepped, but I'm not going to do that. And the height, I presume they all have the same height. The height is just a little bit below the height of this little annex here, which we had at 4.8. So we put this at 4.6. Doesn't want to be 4.6. And roof shape skillion. Of course, we have to define the direction again, presuming that it is completely east-west, which it isn't. So this direction here would be between 270 and 360, which is 315. So the roof direction is 315. Of course, we cannot copy that to all the other corners because the direction will be different. I don't think they had slate roofs. I think they were just completely out of stone. So I'll highlight this, and I think, oh yeah, I have to add it to the relation, obviously. Part. And I'll copy that and paste it here. Can I not copy that? I can. And then to rotate anything on the map that is an area, you hit your R key, and then activates the rotation. And unfortunately, there's nothing to tell you how far you have rotated it. Again, this is so much better in JOSM. And then I have to move it again, and I'll have to hit my M key for move. And I think I should rotate it a little more. Oh, this is very tricky. So then I have to connect them here to be able to delete this corner. And remember, we have to change the direction, the roof direction, and we've gone 90 degrees around the corner, so we can just deduct 90 from 315, which is 225. 225. Ooh. And I'll get another one. Take this one here, because I know that's one square. I might have lost some of the squareness here. And paste that here, and I don't have to rotate it really because it's 100 degrees mirrored. And just connect it to this wall, and again delete this corner, and I can deduct 180 from this one now. It's getting more difficult. Is it 135? I think. And then I might just, because it's easier, I might just use this one here so I don't have to rotate it again. And paste that here. Oh, looking good. I really, really, really recommend to use JOSM instead. And have I made this part of the relation? No, of course not. Neither have I with this one. Or with this one, so I can just highlight all three of them and choose the relation and add part. So that's the 4 buttresses, and I can also show all the parts of the relation by just clicking on relation over here, and it'll show you that we have an outline, which I still have to adapt, and then several parts. You see that this part and these two have a slight pink border, and that means the outline is still there somewhere. It's just terribly difficult to highlight it now. Rather than just deleting it from the relation and not being able to get to it again, I'll just, in the relation, click on the outline, and you have to make sure it's all on your screen, and then hit the delete button, and that should, this feature cannot because it has a Wikidata tag. Don't be so fussy. So now all the pink stuff is gone. And all the information we had on the 2D building is also gone, unless you've saved it somewhere else. So now I'll go and take the line tool. You can also take the area tool, doesn't really matter. And draw a new outline, literally the outline of all the building parts. The outer shell, if you like. And this is going to be what is shown on OpenStreetMap as the footprint of the building. Now we have it all, and I'll click on line and go into change into the text mode, or whatever you call it. And in case it isn't in my clipboard anymore, I'll go into my notepad where I have saved it all. Copy that and paste it in here. You just have to make sure that if you for some reason have already added 3D tags like the roof shape, they can't be in the outline. The outline only has 2D tags. So no height, no roof levels, no building material or anything like that, because it will override everything that you have put in with the building parts. That's the outline, but of course we have to add it to the relation again as the outline. And now we can get to the belfry, which sits on top of the ridge of the building here. It's gonna be very tricky. So it's not as wide as this building part, and you can't really see it on the satellite view. Very difficult to make it symmetrical. I'll just try. So I draw a rectangle and define it as a building part, the usual. And then I can square it off. So for this one, because it sits on top of the roof, we have to add a minimum height. and you do that by min_height. I just have to think about how high we want it, and I might have to go and correct this later on. So it is above the height of this one here, which we have at 7. And this has a total height of 10. Put it at 9, maybe. And then the height, and I think this is, I'm not entirely sure, I think this is the height measured from the ground level up to the top height of this whole thing. So it has to be at least 10 meters high, because it has to be above the ridge of this roof. And you just have to estimate the height of this building part and deduct that height from, it's complicated. I would think it's maybe 1.50 meters above the ridge of the roof. So 1150, because we have the ridge of the roof is 10 plus 150. So that makes the whole structure 2.50 meters high. Hard to tell. I'm not going to bother with the bell, because that's not an architectural element. I'll add material limestone, which I haven't done with all the building parts. And then it doesn't really have a roof, but it has this gable shape. So we're going to use roof shape. Gabled. And again, the ridge is in that direction, so we have to go across with the orientation. And also estimate the roof height. Let's say 1/3 of the total, so 250 by 3 is like 0.8 something, so let's go with 0.8. Roof height 0.8. Yeah, and so I have to add this to the radiation first, and then I can add the doors again. So Croghan Church part, and then we can, do I have everything? And this is already within the outline, so we don't have to worry about that, because the outline is only 2D. Yes, we have the height, material, Yeah, so we can worry about the doors now. Point, entrance, main entrance, I think. And then door, yes. I can actually also add hinged door, or material, wood. And then there was a ramp there. I won't worry about that now. And then another door here. Entrance, yes. Door, hinged, material, wood. There were 2 steps here, which I could add. Steps, so it's highway equals steps, handrail. Don't think there was one at this door, there was at this one. 2 steps, no tactile paving, yeah. And then we should probably connect this to the footpath with another footpath. Oh yeah, wait, I forgot the incline, so that's the direction. To the east, you go up. That should be it, I think. I'll save this. Area has no descriptive tags. I wasn't aware there I had an area there. Maybe I created one. Delete this feature. 2 points in building parts are very close together. So, probably these two. Well, that's how the architect designed it. Can't help that. Ignore. But now I will save it. Added 3D tags and hashtag Derry-na-Flean Trail and sources, survey, I measured, and street level photography, because I did take photographs. What I'll do now is I'll load this into JOSM just to make sure I have everything squared up and to see if it works in OSM2 World. And if it does, that's grand. And if I see things that don't seem to add up, I'll make a few adjustments. So I'll open JOSM. And because I loaded that earlier, I can just do the church, download, and that should only download the data in this very small area. And I'll save this as Croghan Church. And here in OSM2 World, I can just reload OSM file that usually... That's not a good sign. What did I do? I'll see if JOSM can find something wrong with it. Validate. Building relation without building tag. Well, that's what I said. JOSM doesn't like that. Mixed type duplicated node. So I managed to resolve some of the problems. I don't exactly know what I did, but one of the things was that when I drew this one, it didn't connect to the rest. So I had overlapping buildings. And I've, before uploading it to OpenStreetMap, I have saved it as an OSM file and I've loaded it into OSM2 World. I find it a bit hard to move around here. So we have the window here. There's a mistake. Can you see that? That the roof orientation of this buttress is wrong. Because it should be 45. So I'll save that and reload. Shoot. I have children watching sometimes. So now it's correct. I'm not very good with the moving this about. So we haven't defined the roof material of the buttresses. They're just limestone, so I didn't bother. So it's just done as a generic roof tile color. And I'm trying to move this around. It looks fairly like the church. I think that's as good as it'll get. I think that's okay. I think it's recognizable. That's all we want. And yeah, and I'll check again in a day's time on F4 map to see what it looks like there. Fingers crossed. But we'll see it then. And on OpenStreetMap, I've just refreshed the page. You can see that the little buttresses are showing now and it all looks a bit different than before. I'll try to zoom in using another map style, but it might not refresh as quickly, especially in a relation. Not in this cyclosm. Humanitarian maybe. No, maybe tomorrow. And we'll check out the F4 map. So here we are on demo.f4map.com and I'm zooming in on Croghan, just here. don't get your hopes up, so it doesn't look great, because I've checked already. So I'll just go the way one would approach it from the road. So you can see the gabled roofs and the skillion roofs are okay-ish. It's just the gabled roof with the belfry on top, completely messed up. And that happens on F4 map. They can't handle stuff being on top of gabled roofs. That's just something you have to know. There's nothing to worry about because I did map it correctly, as I could see in OSM2 World. I might do another video follow-up, another alternative to do 3D mapping. It's not really mapping then, it's more 3D designing. But this is what it looks like now. Can't be helped. I think I still did a good job. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Slán!